What's going on, everybody? This is Marcus, and I'm here with my lovely wife,
Shira.
And we have a couple of special guests on the podcast today. I'm super excited to be able to sit down with this couple. Me and Shira, we often, talk about debt freedom, and that's really the thing that we share a lot about on this podcast. But there's levels to this, and we have a couple that they're really sharing about the FIRE movement. And this series that we're talking about on this podcast has to do with the FIRE movement. It's really something that is becoming very popular, and it is the next level. It's what we aspire to do and where we aspire to be. So we're happy to have our friends Julian and Kirsten from Rich and Regular on the podcast. How are you guys doing?
We're great.
What's up, man? It's good to meet you guys.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you guys on. So we're just gonna dive in.
Yeah, and as we were sharing right before we started the recording, was that we want to talk a little bit more about FIRE, financially independent, retire early.
Yep.
And one of the things that we discovered after becoming debt free was the very next day, I still had to go to work. I still had the bills coming in, and we really learned that there is a difference. There's a defining difference between debt freedom and financial freedom. And so we love the message that you all bring. And so we're hoping to really dive deeper into that today. And so can you share with us just a little bit about yourself? And if you veer into FIRE, you can. And if not, we'll get there. So if you can just share a little bit about your platform and how it came to be.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kirsten. I'm 35. I'm based out of Atlanta, mama to a 2-year-old, wife to Julian. Play many other roles. No applause. I play many other roles, employee, sister, daughter, all that jazz. I am a former overspender. So my financial story is one where I had a ton of credit card debt, a ton of consumer debt. I bought a luxury car when I was, 23 years old, and just it took me 10 years to pay that thing off, but I had one. And Julian was the one that introduced me to the FIRE movement, really. And it started very similar to your story. I started with debt freedom. I went through all the baby steps, and I did all the things that you have to do to get rid of the debt. And then I realized that I wanted more. And I started thinking about my time. Like, once you stop worrying about money, you start thinking more about time. And when Julian brought FIRE to me, I'm not gonna lie, the first time I was like, hell no. It seems way too extreme. But when you consider the extremities of working for 70 years with no break, like, that's way more extreme than anything that FIRE could ever be. And so, that's the short version of my story.
That's the short version of her story. Wow. My story, I'll try to be brief. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, by way of Jamaica. Both of my parents, my entire family is from Jamaica. And so strong work ethic was like, a strong part of my personality and how I was raised. We moved to the Atlanta area, I want to say 95, 96, sometime around the Olympics. And so at this point, I've been in Atlanta longer than I've been in New York. But, pretty much I've always been a hard worker, go to school, get a job, sometimes 2 jobs, while I was going through school. And I would say, when my wheels started turning for me about money was really right after college, or when it was time to start paying student loans, right? Because I was also a homeowner at the time, and it was like, whoa, I've got this mortgage and I've got these student loans. And I also felt like really deeply insecure, but got over that and got into real estate investing. And from real estate investing, that moved into, sort of the debt payoff lifestyle. And then now sort of into FIRE. And, we've teamed up. We met in 2012, got married in 2015. And, we're on this journey together. We're on the final stretch.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And we definitely want to get into the real estate endeavors that you guys have, because
Sure.
First of all, we love your blog. If you guys are not familiar with Rich and Regular, their blog is amazing. And one of my favorite stories actually is the one where you talk about your real estate empire, your humble empire, as you said. so yeah, we definitely gonna pick your brain on that. So for the people who aren't familiar with FIRE and what it's all about, can you break that down for our listeners, exactly the concept behind it, and then what motivated you to pursue that as opposed to I don't know, maybe not going as aggressive at retirement?
Yeah, so I think the simplest way to describe it is we always use the you've got most people who are marathon savers. They are in it for 30, 40, 50 years, basically their entire lives. And they believe they're going to save, let's say 10 to 15% of their money over that entire period. And then when it's all said and done, they get to live the life of their dreams. This is essentially the plan that most people have been taught and what most people are following. So that's slow and steady save approach over time. FIRE, you were right, stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. Those people are more like sprinters or uphill sprinters. And so they are not interested in the 30, 40, 50-year approach. They're way more interested in going fast, going hard for a much shorter period of time, and then letting that money compound over 30 to 40 years. And so you can do that in a number of ways, but it's either you really, really plummet your expenses, and so you try to keep your costs low, or you try to grow your income as high as you possibly can. In our case, we tried to do both in a way that was comfortable for us. And so we used that to pay off over $200,000 of debt in 5 years. And we've been using that to save, invest, and to grow businesses for the last couple of years. And that's basically our plan. So that we don't have to go to work in order to earn money. Our money will essentially be working for us. What motivated us? I think our motivations were different. For me, it was really just being tired and being tired of being tired. I mean, I'm 39, and I think I've been working since I was 16, 17. And I felt real tired, especially after, Kirsten had our son. I wanted to be an active father. I wanted to be a healthier father. I wanted to be a better husband. And so at the same time, I was wrestling with that desire, but also just a lot of pain and frustration at work. And it was just getting to a point where, I got to the point where I said, well, why am I doing this? We've got all these things going well for us, all these things in the background. And so, we just decided that, hey, man, this is really not worth it. But even before it got to that point, we could see where this was going. I mean, because we were going so hard at work, it was like, man, do you really think you could do this for 30, 40 years? Right. It's like, there's no way you could do that and still be yourself. You lose yourself along the way. You get eaten up and spit out like a lot of us, or like a lot of people before us. And so we said, you know what, there's got to be a better way. And this is something that we landed on and decided to do.
Money.
Besides me.
Money. Compound interest.
Yes.
No, but for real, like once I paid off the debt, I really had gotten a good hold of my spending, and there wasn't a ton that I wanted. Like I didn't find value in things anymore after you spend all this time paying off things that you couldn't afford to begin with. Like I didn't find value in those things. And so when we started to invest the savings that we were used to throwing at debt, and you would see compound interest, and you would see that money has grown over a month or 3 months or 6 months or 2 years, that's a huge motivator. I mean, especially during a bull market, because things were growing really, really fast. And I quickly realized that my money could work harder than I could, because it was getting more than I was at work with these little bitty raises and a bonus here and there. Like my money was working really, really hard. And that was the only motivation I needed.
I was a part of an event recently on a panel, and there was someone in the audience who had referred to investing in the stock market as gambling. And I think that is really prevalent in the African American community, because I've heard it Several times from young people and also old people. But as we're learning about your journey, we see that investing has played a huge role in your progress when it comes to FIRE. So when it comes to that type of attitude that investing is gambling, what would you say to someone with that mindset?
I mean, I think there's definitely a spectrum of risk when it comes to investing, and there are some forms of investing that are like gambling. So if somebody's just picking a stock and hoping that it, does really well, or throwing your life savings into Bitcoin and hoping that it does really, really well, that is gambling, because no one has a crystal ball and no one knows anything. What we use is a data-backed approach. It's a little bit slower, it's a little bit less risky, but there is an approach of investing where you can invest in index funds, which are essentially the entire market. So I own a piece of Google, a piece of Amazon, a piece of every publicly traded stock in the S&P 500, and I buy that. That way, if one company does something stupid or one CEO is problematic and their company goes to shit, like my portfolio is still good because I have the entirety of the market. And so what we're betting on, and it is still a bet, is the US economy or the global economy. There are several different index funds that you can invest in. But yeah, there's definitely some types that are, high risk, high reward. It's very similar to Vegas, where if you are cut from that cloth and you feel like, putting everything on a single stock, you can become very, very rich, or you can lose everything.
Right.
I try not to talk to people like that, so I don't.
Nah, real talk, yeah.
Honestly, I don't have that kind of. I lost that patience a couple of years ago, so that's when I just point them at her and break it down. But in all seriousness, because respectfully, I've not heard that to my face. I've heard people say that, but I think that we're like so in it at this point that I don't even think anybody would come to us and say something because they just know that like maybe I would like go crazy or something.
Yes, but you have broken it down beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like a stock is a piece of a business. And I think that if you think of it in that way, it seems less like gambling. But your explanation was beautiful.
Thank you.
Now, you guys kind of spoke about how you invest in index funds. And there's a statistic out that says, over the past 10 years, the stock market has seen more growth than it's seen since the 1800s. So when people say, okay, so this FIRE movement is great because we've been in such a great market, what do you say to that besides thank you? You know what I mean? But what do you say to those naysayers? It's like, well, it's because the market is doing so good. That's why, I'm sure you guys have heard all the naysayers.
Yeah.
So I think what I say to people like that is, they're right? And I'm sure, if they built up an argument to that point, they're probably well researched and they're right about whatever point that they're trying to make. For us specifically, to hedge our bets, this is why we're not taking an approach that is 100% reliant on stock markets and historical returns, right? And so this is where real estate investing comes in. This is where us investing in other businesses comes into play. And so for us, it's a matter of saying, hey, if we're not getting it or able to get it from our stock market portfolio, we're going to be able to get it from our real estate portfolio, some of which is debt-free, or a number of the businesses that we've built or are building that we believe have nothing but upside going forward, and we can afford to absorb that risk if any one of those things tend to plummet. And so for us, we're at a point where we're trying to diversify, where we've diversified our income streams, which allows us to assess those risks. And so literally everything would have to go down in order for this to not work. And if that were the case, everybody's going to be hurting anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, your job's at risk too.
Right.
It's
if that
not
were
just
the
my
case,
portfolio.
then, correct. And so it's a bit of that's what we say to people like that.
Yeah, and I just add that like one of the tools or the mindsets that you need to incorporate when you're talking about investing and kind of getting over that hurdle of thinking of it as gambling is really taking a long-term view. And so when you take a long-term view, which in the world of investing is 10 plus years, maybe even 20 years, you'll start to realize how cyclical the market is. And you know that what goes down must come up and what goes up must go down, or whatever. Y'all know what I mean. But it's incredibly cyclical. And if you can stay the course, if you can remain consistent, if you can make sure that you don't lose faith or do something crazy, you don't actually lose money unless you cash out.
Right.
If you just let your money sit there and kind of wait until the next, lift, that's how wealth is created.
Right.
And so that's why it's important for people to understand that, like, you shouldn't invest money that you need today to live, because you're not pulling it out is going to cost you more than just letting it ride and letting it grow.
That's a great point. I think when people look at their investment like something that they can potentially tap into, then that's when the fear comes into play, because you're not doing it for the long term at that point. You're kind of you're playing around with it instead of really looking at it as a long journey. So,
and the culture is somewhat to blame for that. I mean, we talk about flipping money all the time, like it's quick, take 10, turn it to 20, turn it to 20, turn it to 50. It's like, that's not how it works. I mean, it does, but it takes about 30 years to take a 10 and turn it to a 50. Absolutely. Like, you just have to wait it out. It's not as quick unless you're dealing with enormous capital and, very limited, restricted type deals. Like, it's a waiting game. It's actually quite boring.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Nice. So one of the things that we wanted to ask you all about is the Playing with Fire documentary. Now, I don't think it's playing in our area quite yet, and we have not been able to get our hands on it, but we know that you two are featured in this documentary speaking about fire, and we look forward to seeing it. And would you be able to talk to us a little bit about that experience?
We're in it for a good 18 seconds, so don't go to the bathroom.
Spread out.
Spread out. So look for it. This is my literal 15 seconds of fame. But Playing with Fire is a documentary that is documenting a couple, Scott and Taylor's journey into fire. So they are a couple that lived in a high cost of living area. They were spending way more than they needed in order to be happy. And so they take this 1-year challenge to spend as little as possible, with the hopes of like increasing their savings rate and then shortening the time to retirement. And so it's their journey of couch surfing, of learning to cook at home, of buying used cars. Taylor gave up her BMW, like it was a whole thing. And then by the end, they figured out like what is the appropriate savings rate for them. And along the journey, you hear from different experts in FIRE that kind of talk through the methodology and the why, and like, just kind of help shape your thinking around the concept, since everybody doesn't have a year to go extreme. It usually takes a lot longer than a year to build up to a 50% savings rate. But for them, they were able to do it in like 3 months, which was fun to see.
Yeah, well, we look forward to it.
Yeah,
all 18 seconds of it.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it should be available on streaming platforms.
I think by November of this year.
Okay.
That's the last we heard. But it's not our film. We're just in it for
That's a part of it.
Okay.
Man, that's amazing. Well, it's good to see people that look like us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does.
Yeah.
This is brought to you by the Black Married and Debt-Free Masterclass. Get out of debt and start building wealth.
In this masterclass, you will learn our 5-step strategy to accelerate your path to financial freedom. We also break down the true key to building wealth.
And these are the same strategies we use to go from 6-figure debt to a 6-figure net worth.
You'll get access to nearly an hour and a half of on-demand video, a debt-free payoff calculator, fillable cash flow statement, and a 30-minute coaching consultation with me and Shira. Enroll in our Get Out of Debt and Start Building Wealth Masterclass. Can't wait to see you there.
So now, Julian, you kind of touched on it a little bit. So now, if you could kind of elaborate on you and Kirsten's real estate endeavors and how that's been going for you. A lot of people that listen to our show, are into real estate or want to get into real estate. So could you just kind of break down how you guys got your feet wet?
Yeah. So I do not remember. It was probably like Rich Dad, Poor Dad or something like that, which is like my first sort of introduction into earning income outside of a traditional job. But I absorbed and devoured a lot of real estate and money books over a really short period of time. This had to be sometime between 2000 and right around when I graduated, so around 2008, when everything was just going bad. It was terrible. But I something dawned on me, and I just knew at that moment, to Kirsten's point about how cyclical this was, that this was probably an opportunity of a lifetime to grab hold of not just stocks, but also real estate. Now, I was broke at the time, so I couldn't do it, but I was convinced that I had to jump in because this opportunity would likely not present itself for another 10 years. And at that point, I might have a kid, several kids, and I wouldn't be able to do it. This is what I was telling myself at the time. I obviously could have done it, but this is what I told myself. And pretty much I researched all the different opportunities. I was reading blogs. I was going to local real estate association meetups and meeting people. And I was really drawn to just like the regular real estate investor. Because to me, real estate investors were always like super snazzy, salesy kind of guys that did like commercials that were just kind of slimy looking. And part of that was that part of what pushed me away from it is that I don't relate to those guys and I don't want to be that guy. But then it dawned on me, it's like, there have got to be just regular real estate investors. And slowly but surely, I started to meet more and more of those people. And then it helped me to realize that, hey, I can do that too. And one of the best tried and true ways to do it was to just own rental properties. And so I basically started saving up every little bit, would get a bonus or, a tax refund or whatever it was. And I was just slowly building up to it until finally I was able to pull the trigger in 2014 and bought my first rental property. And housing values were still creeping up at that point. And so it was still a really good deal. And so that was the first one. And then the second rental property, I would say we kind of did that one together because that was our old primary residence. And so that was the home that I bought in 2008. And we basically moved out of that house. This is after we got married, moved out of that house, gutted it from floors to ceilings, completely renovated it for two reasons. One, because we wanted to continue living small, and we wanted to resist the temptation of buying up because of the journey that we were on. And secondly, because we knew that it would be our second rental property when we did move out of it. And so we were in it, and then we knew that we would have the nicest rental in the area. And that's exactly what happened. And so we moved into the home that we're in 2000, what is it now, 19? Last year? 2018. Time is moving fast.
Right.
So anyway, and now we have two of those rentals. So one of them is completely debt-free and renovated. And so we get a really, really nice premium on the rent on that one. And the other one, which we had in 2014, we have a small mortgage on it, but the rent has increased, maybe 30-40% since we bought it, and it's been stable the entire time. We've had a couple of issues. There was like a leak.
Bad tenant.
But that was another really important thing for me because at the time when I was just interested in getting into it, so many people were telling me, don't do it. Because I got into it and tenants are crazy and they'll trash your property and it's awful and you don't want to be waking up at 3:00 in the middle of the night to go do all this stuff. And so I was really discouraged to do it. Right. But it wasn't until I started educating myself and realizing that actually there's a way to insulate yourself from all of those middle of the night.
Yeah, we've never gotten in the middle.
I've never gotten in the middle of.
In fact, we were at an event and they were talking about real estate and they asked the audience how many people in here have ever gotten the 3:00 in the morning call? And nobody raised their hand.
Right.
I think it's a myth. Maybe it happens every once in a while, but we it's been 5 years and we've never gotten that call. Never.
And so, I enjoy it. It's one of my favorite. I love getting that little email.
Right.
Let me know that the money has been deposited into our account, because it's going back to our earlier point. I mean, when you realize that, man, I haven't put $1 or, an ounce of energy, I might send a couple emails every month or so, just to keep in touch and send a file or a document to somebody. But for the most part, it's working for us in the background. And this is what we mean by when you start to earn money truly passively like that, it changes the way that you think about earning income and the possibilities. And so, it's been a great experience for us. No regrets.
Yeah, that's amazing. You said something that was very funny, Julian, because when you think about it, the default, when you do think about investors, you're thinking, because you hear wholesaling and you hear all these kind of, it's almost like they're trying to sell something or get something on the cheap. And that's real estate investing. But there's another side of it. Like how you said, the buy and hold is like a great strategy for like, someone who's just a little more passive, you know what I mean? Who wants to just collect that passive income. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Chill. And I think that's amazing. I know there's a lot of people who listen that, would love to hear your story on that.
Yeah, I mean, that was my biggest lesson, even entering the FIRE space, is like, I had to learn how to be a passive investor. I had to learn the unsexy part of like this whole investing thing, because everything that I was seeing on like HGTV and Shark Tank and like, I would come to Julian with these like razzle dazzle ideas, and he'd be like, no, like we're gonna buy the condo under the tree in the boring side of town. And he's absolutely right. Like the thing has printed money for us for 5 years, and it continues to do so. And it's kind of sad that like the regular approach to investing isn't talked about more. We still encounter people every day that think they have to hire somebody to invest their money. And it's like, no, it's as simple as opening a Spotify account. Like download the app right now, connect your bank account and move $200 into the market. Like you can do that. You don't need anybody's permission. You don't need anybody's expertise. You can literally do it yourself. And it's kind of sad that like more people aren't talking about that. More investors aren't calling themselves investors. They just say, well, I'm saving for retirement. And it's like, no, you're actually investing. And there's a number of ways you can do that besides like traditional retirement accounts that you can't touch until you're 55.
Wow.
I love that. And that's such a great piece of advice. And then one of the things that you said, Julian, was that there was some hesitation around investing and how folks are saying, do you really want to do this? But it sounds like you're absolutely glad that you did. And that was our experience too. We met someone who said, you don't want to get into real estate. And because we're in California, we can't afford a thing here. And so we have invested out of state, but we were met with the same thing. You don't want to do this. But the person that was telling us to not do it own rentals themselves and were very successful. And so, yes. And so, I mean, I love that you two have just pushed forward, and you have been, you do things in an unconventional way. Like when you think about the advice that is given out by popular money gurus is, save 10%, save 15%. Well, if you can save much more, then why wouldn't you do that? And so I love that you are living what you speak about, and that, you've taken your time to really educate others on how to do the same. And that's, for us, that's really inspirational. Absolutely. And it means a lot.
Yeah.
So now we definitely want to get into, first of all, just let me say this. Kirsten and Julian have been featured on so many platforms. Like,
yes,
we're like in awe of all the platforms. I mean, New York Times, I'm like, look, Kirsten's on New York Times. Like, this is crazy. Like, just hats off to you guys. You guys are just getting it in, and we love it. So another endeavor that you guys recently have jumped into was, you're now authors of Eat Better on a Budget. Can you please tell us about this book? Because it's really dope. We actually bought it. So
thank you. Yeah. I think at the heart of it is one, tapping into a skill set that we have. And so, I used to be a professional chef. I used to cook, for world-class chefs. I've cooked for royalty. It's all I've ever known. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of weird when I met Kirsten, I didn't realize that, people didn't know what they did. You don't know what you don't know. So I'm just saying, you ain't never cooked for no world class. That's what I'm saying. The book came about because, we've been so deeply entrenched in personal finance, and everyone talks about the big three. And then when they get to cooking, it's like a gaping hole. Just got to cook more at home. And it's like, great. And so the default is always, now I got to eat rice and beans or peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or ramen noodles. And it's like, you could actually eat better, like on a budget. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to commit yourself to eating, frozen food or unhealthy food. Because here's the thing, whether we're talking about real estate investing, FIRE movement, getting out of debt, all of these things are deeply emotional. And if you are punishing yourself with food that you don't enjoy every single day, there's no incentive for you to stay on this journey. You know what I mean? You have to feel good about what you're doing. You have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? And so for us, not only do we enjoy food, but it's a way that we celebrate. And so, we don't, if you think about, and you guys have been doing this for a long time, that's not an easy sell. It's like when you tell someone all you have to do is eat terrible food for 5 years, no one's going to say, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? But if you tell them, no, you can actually do it in a way that, is good for you or better for you. And if you have a kid, it's way less expensive to do these things. And so we wrote the book to help people cook better because there aren't that many places to help people learn how to cook, to help understand how to pick the right fruits and vegetables or how to even organize their kitchen. Most people, they throw stuff in the first day they move in and they've never touched it ever since then. And so the kitchen's really inefficient. So that's why we wrote that. And also, full transparency, this is part of our business plan, right? If we have something of value that we want to create and share with the world, then the internet is a great place to do that. And so it was a great learning experience for us. And now it's also essentially an income stream.
Absolutely. And what I loved about what you said, and it was direct to consumer. Like when we went and got it, it was like, yo, this is our thing and we're collecting the revenue, and that is a whole nother topic that we can go into, because I love the fact that you are creating another revenue stream. That's what it's all about. So
right.
You guys are brilliant and within, your own arena as well. And so, you take full advantage of that. And, I think that there's something really empowering about that. Every single one of us, have a gift. And so you have to essentially have the courage to put that out there. And you may not know how to do everything right, but you can ask someone or learn how to do those things and use it to your full advantage.
I was going to say that I really enjoy the book, and I really enjoy following you on Instagram and seeing all of the wonderful dishes.
You're making me look kind of bad out here, Julie. Because I cannot cook nothing.
Chicken.
We're going to change that.
All right, cool.
We got some tricks up our sleeve. We're going to change that, man.
Cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
we just love it. But I was wondering, who does the dishes?
Oh,
This girl. I do the dishes. I mean, he'll do some of them, but
Thank you.
very few. But I do the dishes.
So since you bought the book, you read the book, and I talk about cleaning as you go. So
Yes.
it really ain't nothing left over anyway.
Yes.
So that's what she's taking credit for. But, crown you queen if that's what you need. Go ahead.
I do them dishes.
You did the dish. The random spoon that was left over. You knocked it out.
Right. But you all, we appreciate you being on the show. Now, we do want to know what's next for Rich and Regular. What? I know you got to keep some things close to the vest, but if you can give us a little. I know y'all got something brewing over there.
What's next? I'll say that there are two. So this is really interesting. There are two video series that are coming out. I will share that. I won't share any much more details, but that's really cool. And so, because we're getting more and more accustomed to camera crews and stuff, which is really weird. But it's kind of cool. So that's coming out. What else?
We got some speaking gigs.
Nice.
There's a big online Mamas Talk Money Summit that's coming in October that I'll be a part of. And then there's also an all women's money retreat called Sense Positive in Chicago that I will be speaking at for an hour.
Yeah.
And then Julian will be headed to St. Louis in the spring.
St. Louis and the Economy Conference, actually.
Oh, I thought that was in St. Louis.
No, that's in Cincinnati.
My bad.
Yeah, so we've got speaking gigs coming up and a bunch of really, really cool stuff, man. So
And that's amazing.
Yeah,
We're definitely enjoying watching you guys, and you guys are doing some awesome things. So
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys too, man. I love seeing it.
appreciate that.
I'm sure you got some. I thought you were gonna ask me to bust a freestyle or put some music on it.
Yeah, if you got.
I was on the plane. I was telling her, I was like, we're gonna be on their podcast.
Oh, God.
I started writing bars.
Like,
Bars.
eating on the tray like he's in middle school. Like, sir, this is.
I was like, cause he gonna drop a beat. That's how they
Sir,
close
this is
every.
a Wendy's. Like, please stop rapping in the
Man,
trunk.
I'm definitely music is definitely a big thing for us.
We're gonna do a money cipher. That's what we're gonna do.
Let's do that.
Yeah, we're gonna get like 5 of us together. We're gonna be like a little online Wu-Tang clan. And we're gonna do a whole cipher.
Let's do that. But yeah, absolutely. We are glad you guys hopped on this podcast with us. It was long overdue. So we're glad that we could connect our schedules and make this happen. So now, absolutely. So can you let our listeners know where they can connect with you and where they can reach out to you if they want to?
Yeah, so our blog is richandregular.com. And then we're also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at richandregular. We have a Pinterest page, and our email is richandregular@gmail.com. Shoot us a note.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And let me say this, this topic, personal finance in general, it's not necessarily the coolest topic, but you guys make it cool. You guys got like swag. Like, we love that. You know what I mean?
Yes, we do.
We definitely love that. So,
That's the point.
yes.
That's the point. We all have to take stock of the role that we play. You guys do, right? Like you make an effort to reach a wider audience. Otherwise, you're just talking to the same people that have already, done this. And so our goal is to help bring the message to people who, let's say, the current state is not bringing it to. And so make it a little bit more palatable, and hopefully it'll overcome any hesitation and get more people on board. Because ultimately, that's what this is about. We've crafted a very specific message for a specific audience that we want to reach, and hopefully we continue to do that over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I don't know anybody that just talks about money unless you're like paid to do that. So like that's where the regular comes in. Usually if you come to one of our meetups or like just approach us at a conference or wherever we're at, we're gonna talk about money for like this long. Talking about regular stuff, rapping, kids, food, whatever. Like obviously we love talking about money, but we're regular people.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. So we thank you guys for being on the show.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks.
All right, cool.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.
Yo, so we hope you guys enjoyed that podcast episode. We hope that we said something that you can take away and apply. We are here to inform and to inspire. So do us a huge favor and don't forget to rate this podcast 5 stars on whatever platform you're streaming us. And if you want to become a supporter of the Black Married and Debt Free podcast, you can do so by clicking on the link below. That's it for now. Till next time, holla at you guys later.